18 exhumed remains of black celebrities and the horrifying truth behind them. Martin Luther King Jr. and Whitney Houston are shocking names associated with untold stories after their passing. You will be surprised to hear their stories about dark hidden corners, concealed truths, and the tragedies surrounding their final resting places. We are Our Memory Vault, your companion in this video. This video is designed to be a comforting companion, perfect for you to enjoy during your moments of rest at cozy family meals or while doing light housework. All information in this video has been carefully researched and curated from multiple sources by the Our Memory Vault team. However, knowledge is endless, so if you have any details to contribute, please do not hesitate to leave a comment below so we can improve every day. Do not forget to hit the subscribe button, the like button, and turn on notifications to be the first to watch our latest videos. Now, let us begin right away with our first figures. Martin Luther King Jr. Reverend Martin Luther King Jr. was not only a great civil rights leader, but also a symbol of hope, reconciliation, and the aspiration for a just society. For many of us who have lived through the ups and downs of history, his "I Have a Dream" speech still echoes as a sacred reminder of the value of humanity. During his lifetime, he dedicated his entire life to fighting tirelessly through peaceful means, overcoming countless hardships and the strict prejudices of society at that time. The legacy he left behind is not merely changed laws, but an awakening in the conscience of all mankind. However, the story of his resting place brings us profound reflections. Initially, after passing away in 1968, his remains were laid to rest at Southview Cemetery in Atlanta, a humble resting place. But by 1970, his remains were exhumed and relocated to the grounds of the King Center. This change was not simply the moving of a grave. It carried a massive symbolic meaning, transforming a personal resting place into a national monument, a sanctuary for the public to visit, reflect, and revere. This relocation reflects a reality that some individuals are so great that even after they have closed their eyes forever, they still belong to the public and to history. From the perspective of Our Memory Vault, the relocation of Martin Luther King Jr.'s remains raises a deeply poignant question. Are we truly honoring his dream, or are we simply decorating a historical monument? When the departed are revered to the point of deification, their true and sometimes edgy messages during their lifetimes can easily fade or be forgotten. Building a magnificent tomb is worthy of respect, but the most meaningful act to remember him is to continue nurturing the values of equality and altruism that he bravely defended with his life. The story of relocating the great Reverend's remains is merely the beginning of the heartbreaking mysteries we are about to explore together. Please keep watching, because the truth behind the resting place of our next figure will certainly make your heart ache. Whitney Houston. Whitney Houston possessed an angelic voice, an extraordinary talent that once captivated millions of hearts around the world. For mature audiences, her music was not just simple entertainment, but the soundtrack to our most beautiful youthful memories. Her ability to convey intense emotions through every soaring note in the song "I Will Always Love You" brought her to the pinnacle of fame, making her one of the greatest female artists of all time. She appeared as a radiant queen under the stage lights, bringing joy and comfort to countless fans across 5 continents. Yet behind that dazzling aura lay a sad story of internal struggles and an inescapable family tragedy. When she suddenly passed away in 2012, the world was shocked to realize that ultimate glory could not protect her from the dark corners of life. Her remains were laid to rest at Fairview Cemetery in New Jersey, next to her late father. The sorrow did not stop there. A few years later, her only daughter, Bobby Christina Brown, also passed away in similarly tragic circumstances and was buried right next to her mother. The Houston family's burial plot suddenly became a heartbreaking symbol of a tragedy following a tragedy. The Our Memory Vault team believes that Whitney Houston's story is a poignant testament to the extremely high price of fame. The public and the media often only desire to admire the perfect image of an idol, forgetting that they also carry very human vulnerabilities. The passing of both mother and daughter makes us pause and reflect on the invisible yet incredibly heavy pressure that the entertainment industry places on the shoulders of an artist. Although she now lies forever, resting in the embrace of Mother Earth, perhaps only when leaving this noisy world did that legendary voice truly find the peace she always desperately longed for during her lifetime. Bob Marley. Bob Marley was not just a musician, he was a prophet of music who brought reggae melodies from a small Caribbean island nation to resonate across the globe. His music carried profound philosophies of life, serving as a powerful voice fighting for freedom, peace, and unity among people. For those who have lived through decades of turbulence, his songs act as a spiritual remedy, soothing pain and igniting hope for a brighter tomorrow. Even though he departed at a very young age, the spiritual legacy he left behind has transcended all barriers of language and national borders, deeply engraved in the consciousness of our time. However, the resting place of this musical monument once became the center of a profound controversy. Bob Marley was laid to rest in his hometown of 9 Mile, Jamaica, the place that nurtured his artistic soul. Yet in 2005, the public was truly shaken by rumors and plans to exhume and relocate his remains to Ethiopia, the land considered the sacred spiritual origin of the Rastafari faith that he always revered. Immediately, this idea faced a fierce wave of opposition from the Jamaican people, because for them, the body and soul of Bob Marley are an inseparable part of their nation's flesh and blood. From our memory vault's perspective, the controversy surrounding the relocation of Bob Marley's remains reflects a heartbreaking reality. When a person becomes a legend, their physical body seems to no longer belong solely to their family. The dispute over his final resting place shows the desire of different communities to own a piece of his legacy. We believe that whether his physical body rests in Jamaica or anywhere else on Earth, Bob Marley's soul and musical message will forever belong to humanity. True greatness does not lie in where a tomb is placed, but in the fact that his ideology lives on in the hearts of the people. If you were stunned by the turbulent waves surrounding Bob Marley's grave, the untold hidden corners of the next great figures will bring even more mysteries. Do not take your eyes off the screen, because the story up next will reveal to us the invisible yet incredibly expensive cost of greatness. Jimi Hendrix. Jimi Hendrix is globally revered as one of the greatest and most influential guitarists in modern music history. With his masterful playing ability and an energetic performance style, he completely redefined how humanity perceived rock music. For the generation of audiences who lived through the vibrant years of the 60s and 70s, the image of Jimi Hendrix burning brightly on the Woodstock stage has become an unforgettable youthful memory. His boundless creativity inspired countless generations of artists that followed, even though his brilliant life tragically closed at the age of 27. However, a thought-provoking truth is that even when he closed his eyes forever, peace still seemed to deny him. Initially, Jimi Hendrix was buried in a modest grave in Renton, Washington. As decades passed, streams of fans constantly flocked there to pay their respects, making the small tomb far too cramped for his colossal stature. This led to a very difficult decision. In 2002, his remains were exhumed and relocated to a magnificent marble memorial within the same cemetery to fulfill the wishes of his family and global fans. Our memory vault observes that the exhumation and relocation of Jimi Hendrix's remains carry a melancholic sadness about the price of greatness. Sometimes, a legend becomes so immense that an ordinary grave cannot contain the love and regret of the public. This act of relocation, although born out of respect, still evokes a sense of sorrow when the departed has to leave their original resting place. We believe that the grand memorial is necessary for the world to remember his name, but the resounding music he left behind is his most immortal monument. James Brown. James Brown, honored as the godfather of soul, dedicated his entire life to art with an inexhaustible, burning energy. His masterful dance moves, powerful vocals, and explosive performance style captivated countless generations of audiences. He was not just a simple entertainer, but a symbol of the effort to rise from adversity someone who strongly inspired pride and the desire to live. For those who appreciate the value of tireless artistic labor, James Brown is always an unshakable monument, a man who single-handedly built an entire great musical era. However, a true tragedy unfolded right after the heartbeat of this legend stopped on Christmas 2006. Instead of resting peacefully after a lifetime of dedication, his remains fell into a vortex of legal disputes and bitter family conflicts. Disagreements over the division of assets and his burial location caused the remains of the hardest working man in show business to wait in solitude for many months. The fact that a great artist could not find an immediate resting place but had to go through multiple temporary storages is a shocking story that leaves a deep sorrow for the public. Our Memory Vault's perspective on James Brown's story is a sigh for the dark corners behind the halo of wealth and fame. It is ironic that a person who always longed to bring joy to audiences could not have a peaceful ending for himself just because of the calculations of those left behind. We believe that the greatest respect for the departed does not lie in fighting over the material wealth they left behind, but in cherishing and preserving their beautiful artistic values. This story is an expensive lesson in humanity, reminding us that inner peace is the most precious treasure at the end of one's life. Booker T. Washington. Booker T. Washington was one of the most eminent educators and thought leaders in America during the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Rising from extremely difficult circumstances, he elevated himself with extraordinary willpower to become the founder of the prestigious Tuskegee Institute. For previous generations, he was the embodiment of the philosophy of patience, emphasizing the spirit of self-reliance, practical skill training, and economic development as a solid foundation for social advancement. His message was highly practical, encouraging reconciliation and relentless effort to build a better future with one's own laboring hands. His influence extended beyond community boundaries, leaving a profound mark on the educational system and critical thinking of that era, laying the groundwork for the sustainable development of many subsequent generations. However, after he passed away in 1915 and was buried right on the campus of the Tuskegee School, he spent his life building another thought-provoking reality began to emerge. Although his remains were not literally exhumed, his legacy and historical viewpoints have been continuously dug up and fiercely debated by the public and scholars. Many argue that his compromises back then were a step backward, while others fiercely defend that it was the wisest survival strategy in a deeply volatile period. His grave lies quietly beneath the canopy of trees, but the conflicting tides of public opinion surrounding the name Booker T. Washington have never truly been buried. His story reminds us that there are great people whose physical bodies are not disturbed, yet they must endure the relentless judgment of the flow of time. From the analytical viewpoint of the Our Memory Vault team, the story of Booker T. Washington's resting place is a clear testament to the harshness of history toward trailblazers. It is heartbreaking that a person who dedicated his entire life to building a foundation of knowledge for tens of thousands of people must face harsh evaluations even while lying deep beneath the earth. We believe that every era has its own distinct contexts and limitations that later generations find hard to fully comprehend. Instead of continuing to argue or judge decisions from the past, we should view him with the deepest respect. The greatest legacy he left behind is not endless debates, but the thousands of students whose lives were transformed thanks to the grand educational vision he bravely planted on harsh soil. George Washington Carver. George Washington Carver is honored as one of the most outstanding agricultural scientists of the 20th century, a brilliant mind hidden behind a humble and simple appearance. He dedicated his entire life to researching and developing new farming methods, helping to restore barren lands and bringing hope to millions of impoverished farmers. With boundless creativity, he turned simple crops like peanuts and sweet potatoes into hundreds of useful products, completely transforming the agricultural economy of that time. For audiences who cherish perseverance and practical knowledge, the image of a gentle professor wearing a white laboratory coat in a small workspace is always an endless source of inspiration for altruism and unconditional love for humanity. After passing away, he was respectfully buried next to his soulmate, Booker T. Washington, on the Tuskegee campus. Although his remains were never violated or exhumed, the sad truth lies in how history packaged and obscured his true stature. For decades, media and textbooks often simplified him as the Peanut Man, a lovable, safe figure lacking academic depth. This oversimplification unintentionally buried his sharp intellect, his environmentally protective philosophies that were ahead of their time, and the silent efforts of a genius mind. This is an incredibly sophisticated form of exhumation and reshaping of public memory, causing the image of a great scientist to be framed in trivial stories, diminishing the immense value he truly brought. Our memory vault always carries a deep concern when looking at how history records the legacy of George Washington Carver. Simplifying a great mind simply because of societal prejudices is a tremendous loss to the treasure trove of human knowledge. We believe that behind the image of a gentle agronomist is a profoundly learned soul, an innovative mindset that surpassed all barriers of the era. When we stand before his resting place, what we need to do is not just remember an individual, but return him to his rightful place on the map of global science. Let us not allow intellectual legacies to be narrowed down by superficial titles. Let his enduring dedication forever be a bright torch guiding the way for future generations on the journey to discover knowledge. Emmett Till. The story of Emmett Till is one of the most tear-filled historical chapters that carried the weight to completely change the consciousness of a nation. The 14-year-old boy possessed the innocence and naivety of youth, yet he had to face an incredibly cruel tragedy during a trip to visit relatives. His heartbreaking passing in 1955 was not just the ultimate pain of a mother losing her child, but also the spark that awakened millions of sleeping consciences. The image of the resilient mother, Mrs. Mamie Till Mobley, who bravely decided to open the casket so the whole world had to witness her family's pain firsthand, became an immortal symbol of courage. It transcended the boundaries of an ordinary funeral, becoming a powerful call for justice that echoed through every street of America at that time. Half a century after being buried in 2005, the peace at Emmett Till's grave was shattered when authorities decided to exhume his remains. This action was not intended to reopen old wounds, but was a medical effort to gather crucial evidence, hoping to bring truths concealed for 5 decades into the light. The original glass-topped casket that once preserved his body was later respectfully placed in the Smithsonian Museum, becoming a sacred historical relic. The fact that a 14-year-old boy, after 50 years lying deep underground, still had to return to testify for his own tragedy is an incredibly heartbreaking reality. It shows that the law enforcement system once had glaring loopholes, causing hidden truths to be tragically delayed. Faced with this deeply distressing story, the Our Memory Vault team cannot help but feel sorrow and reflect deeply on the true meaning of justice. The exhumation of Emmett Till's remains after all those years is a costly testament showing that time cannot erase the obscurities of history. That boy did not have the chance to grow up, but his sacrifice created a solid launching pad for great societal changes. We want to convey the message that no life is forgotten if we bravely face the past. Although the answers may arrive too late, the memory humanity holds for Emmett Till has been, is, and will always be present as a sacred reminder for future generations. Billie Holiday. Billie Holiday, a musical monument affectionately known as Lady Day, possessed a haunting voice filled with the deepest sorrows of human life. For mature souls who have tasted the many ups and downs of life, her music is not simply for enjoyment, but an echo from the heart, a profound empathy with turbulent fates. The song Strange Fruit, performed by her, is not only an artistic masterpiece, but also a haunting manifesto, a silent yet powerful cry against deep-seated social prejudices. Her smoky-toned voice had the ability to seep into every corner of emotion, soothing wounded hearts, while simultaneously adding long cuts to the harsh reality she had to endure throughout her turbulent life. However, The concluding chapter for the life of this music legend is the saddest and gloomiest of melodies. She rests at St. Raymond's Cemetery, and although her remains were never exhumed or disturbed after burial, an agonizing truth lies in the final days when she was still breathing. Right on her hospital bed, when her body was completely exhausted, she still could not escape the severe harassment and surveillance of the systems at that time. They guarded a dying singer, stripping away the last shreds of dignity and peace that any living being deserves to receive. The most cruel exhumation was not in digging up a physical grave, but in the way society's coldness drained the last ounce of vitality and dignity from a genius artist just as she was preparing to bid farewell to this world. Through the lens of our memory vault, the story of Billie Holiday's final days is an indelible scar in the history of how great artists were treated. It is heartbreaking that a woman whose healing voice touched millions of people departed in loneliness, deprived of the most basic compassion from her fellow human beings. We observe that artistic glory is sometimes too fragile a cloak, unable to shield fragile souls from the storms of life. As we reflect on her quiet resting place today, we learn an expensive lesson about compassion. We must cherish artists not only when they shine brightly under the stage lights, but also open our arms of love when they must face the darkness of their personal tragedies. Sam Cooke. Sam Cooke, honored as the King of Soul, left humanity a priceless musical legacy with a voice that was smooth soaring and incredibly charismatic. He was the embodiment of elegance and extraordinary talent, capable of breaking down all social barriers to connect music-loving hearts across all walks of life. The melodies in the classic song "A Change Is Gonna Come" are not just a work of art, but a prophecy, an anthem carrying a fierce belief in change and the good things waiting ahead. For the older generation, Sam Cooke's music provided a gentle comfort, a hope that lit up turbulent years, affirming the stature of a pioneering artist, not only in art, but also in the mindset of mastering his own life. However, that beautiful melody was cut short in a very sudden and mysterious way on a cold December night in 1964. Sam Cooke passed away at a very young age, leaving millions of fans in total shock and profound sorrow. He was formally buried at Forest Lawn Cemetery, and his remains have never been exhumed or disturbed. Even so, a mysterious shadow and unanswered questions have always hovered over his resting place for decades. The highly contradictory details surrounding his passing have become an unhealed wound in music history. This unexpected ending completely contrasts with the elegant and highly successful image the public once knew, making memories of him always accompanied by troubled sighs. The Our Memory Vault team always carries an unending sense of regret when recalling the passing of Sam Cooke. It is heartbreaking that a person who brought a message of promising change ended his journey with a massive question mark, offering no sense of release or peace of mind to those left behind. We believe that even if history leaves dark patches that cannot be fully exposed, his musical legacy will forever be the fire that warms souls thirsting for freedom. When we stand before his quiet grave, let the smooth melodies play instead of judgments or doubts. Because ultimately, the most miraculous thing Sam Cooke left behind is not the mysteries surrounding his departure, but the fierce vitality of a great artist's soul. Medgar Evers. Medgar Evers is one of the most resilient symbols of the civil rights movement, a soldier who once bravely fought for his country in World War II, only to return to his homeland and continue another equally arduous battle for the equal rights of his own people. For older audiences who have witnessed the historical ups and downs, his image represents bravery, profound patriotism, and a tireless aspiration for a just society. With steady steps and a passionate heart, he dedicated all the years of his youth to dismantling the unjust barriers in society, knowing full well that this path was always stalked by unpredictable dangers that could strike at any moment. Yet his heroic sacrifice in 1963 was treated by the law enforcement system of that time with a terrifyingly deafening silence. Even though he was buried with the most solemn honors bestowed upon a serviceman at a national cemetery, the truth is that the perpetrator blatantly remained above the law for many decades afterward. It wasn't until 1991 that an unprecedented decision was made by authorities. The remains of Medgar Evers were carefully exhumed to serve a new medical investigation. This action aimed to recollect the most concrete evidence elements that had previously been intentionally ignored to finally deliver an appropriate verdict in 1994, returning long overdue justice to his family. Standing before this landmark event, the Our Memory Vault team perceives a deeply haunting yet incredibly profound truth. The exhumation of Medgar Evers' remains was not an act of disturbing the departed, but a resounding testament that when human justice is bent, it is the very remains of that hero that must raise a voice to demand the truth. It reflects a lingering pain in history where a system took nearly 3 decades to find the courage to look directly at its own past mistakes. However, this event also honors the extraordinary endurance of his wife and family who never bowed their heads. No matter how much time passes, Medgar Evers' courage and his family's quest for truth will forever remain a priceless lesson on the power of believing in what is right. Nat Turner. Nat Turner is a historical figure of special stature, a preacher who left an incredibly deep mark on the turbulent pages of 19th century American history. For those passionate about understanding history, his name is associated with a powerful struggle, an extraordinary effort to break the chains of oppression that had clamped down on countless human fates for generations. He possessed not only a sharp intellect and a thorough understanding of religious texts, but also an ironclad belief that all people are born with the right to live in freedom and maintain their dignity. Even though his life closed against a backdrop of a dark and challenging history, his unyielding spirit became a lighthouse, igniting hope for countless future generations in their journey to seek the light of equality. However, what happened after he passed away is a deeply heartbreaking and profoundly cautionary tale. The ruling powers of that time not only wanted to completely extinguish the ideology he initiated, but also intentionally stripped away a human being's right to a normal resting place. Instead of being properly buried, pieces of his remains were taken scattered and used as symbolic tools to deter and instill fear in those left behind. It was not until nearly 2 centuries later, in 2016, that a part of the remains verified by experts as his was formally returned to his descendants for sacred preservation and testing procedures. The prolonged wandering of these remains reveals a sorrowful truth about how the authorities of that time tried to erase all physical traces of those who dared to stand up for their ideals. Through the research lens of Our Memory Vault, the story of Nat Turner's remains offers a profound reflection on the enduring vitality of history. Intentionally depriving an individual of a resting place is a desperate attempt to completely wipe their image from the flow of human memory. Yet time has proven the exact opposite truth. One can hide physical remains, but one can never bury the spirit and the intangible legacy that person created. Nat Turner's name lives on, proudly transcending all constraints of space and time. When his descendants received back what belonged to their ancestor, it was not only a deeply meaningful spiritual reunion, but also a powerful affirmation that the thirst for freedom will never be subdued. Bessie Smith. Bessie Smith. A woman celebrated with the noble title Empress of the Blues, brought to the world music with a fierce power to move people and an enduring vitality that cannot fade over time. With a warm, deeply emotional voice and masterful performing techniques, she transformed the sorrows and hardships of everyday life into beautiful melodies capable of healing countless struggling souls. For experienced audiences, those who have understood the harshness and the ups and downs of human life, her voice is a true confidant, a representative voice for the little people in a society full of prejudice. She was not only a radiant star in the entertainment industry of the 1920s, but also a trailblazer, persistently laying a solid foundation for the rise of numerous generations of talented artists later on. However, after a tragic traffic accident in 1937 took her life, an incredibly harsh reality was exposed to the global public. Even though during her lifetime her singing brought massive profits to record labels and was revered by countless fans everywhere. When she closed her eyes, she was left to lie in an unmarked grave, completely forgotten amidst the rushing stream of life. The quiet tomb, without even a name-engraved headstone, seemed to have permanently buried the former glory of an exceptional talent. It took decades of waiting until 1970, when the legendary singer Janis Joplin and genuine music lovers personally raised funds and erected a solemn headstone to restore the rightful identity to the plot of land where she rested. The Our Memory Vault team feels incredibly choked up when reflecting on this bitter paradox in Bessie Smith's story. The fact that a voice that once shook an entire era was turned away by the very entertainment industry the moment her singing faded is a profound reminder of the heartless nature of fame and glory. We believe that the coldness of her contemporaries toward her resting place is a sad ripple that cannot be erased in art history. However, the chivalrous act of artists from the succeeding generation lit up a warm ray of humanity. It proves a very sacred thing. True art will always find a way to connect kindred spirits. That belated headstone was not merely a compensation for the departed, but a firm affirmation that great contributions will never be buried by the dust of time. Patrice Lumumba. Patrice Lumumba stands in the flow of history as a brightly shining lighthouse of the national liberation movement, the great first prime minister of an independent and autonomous Congo. His vast intellect, profound strategic vision, and outstanding oratory skills made him a symbol of hope not only for his homeland, but for the entire African continent during the transformative years of the 1960s. For the generation of people who always cherished the sacred value of independence and self-determination, his call to stand up and master the destiny of the country still carries immense awakening power. He used his own life, disregarding personal gain, to pave the way for a brighter future where people no longer had to bow down in submission to oppressive foreign powers. Yet that great dedication was cut short by an incredibly dark plot that took place in 1961. After he was murdered, the groups involved did not stop at taking his life. They went further by deliberately destroying all of his remains to completely prevent the people from building a memorial for their beloved leader. For many long decades, his family and a vast nation had to endure unending pain, lacking a complete grave to visit and entrust their sorrow. It was not until 2022 that his only remaining relic, a single tooth, was officially returned to his family by Western authorities in a formal ceremony. An incredibly tiny piece of remains, yet carrying the weight of a deeply tragic historical chapter, marking a milestone in historical healing that can never be forgotten. Through Our Memory Vault's analytical lens. The story of Patrice Lumumba's resting place is a heartbreaking testament to the extreme calculation of power schemes. Attempting to completely erase the physical presence of a person is a desperate effort to extinguish the flame of freedom burning in the minds of millions of others. But what happened afterward showed that they completely failed before the wheel of history. We believe that the moment his last piece of remains was brought back to his homeland was a monumentally symbolic event, a comfort for wounds that had lasted through many generations. Even without a massive mausoleum from the start, Patrice Lumumba's great ideology still rooted deeply in the motherland and bloomed brilliantly, proving that no cover-up can ever dim the enduring light of truth. Zora Neale Hurston. Zora Neale Hurston was an outstanding female scholar, a brilliant anthropologist and literary writer who dedicated her entire talent and enthusiasm to preserving and promoting priceless folk culture values. Her classic work, Their Eyes Were Watching. God is not just a beautifully crafted piece of literature, it is a genuine lens that vividly sketches the rich inner life and proud beauty of human beings in the most restrictive social settings. For mature readers, those who are passionate about the depth of culture and historical roots, her delicate pen is an invaluable asset. She helped preserve everyday stories and precious customs so they would not be washed away by the modern pace of life. She was a dedicated keeper of memories, an irreplaceable voice during a remarkably brilliant and proud era of cultural renaissance. However, a deeply heartbreaking paradox is that the woman who spent her life cherishing and preserving the community's legacy was forgotten by her own era in her twilight years. When she passed away in 1960 in poverty and loneliness, her remains were quietly buried in a segregated cemetery in the state of Florida. There were no bright wreaths, no eulogies praising her great career, and most painfully, not even a name-engraved headstone to mark where this scholar rested. Many years later, her grave was covered in weeds and faded completely into oblivion. That forgetfulness only ended when the famous writer Alice Walker resolved to go searching, clean it up, and place a stone of sincere gratitude upon it. Although the remains were not dug up, having her name exhumed from obscurity was an event that strongly shook the literary world. Our Memory Vault's perspective on Zora Neale Hurston's story is a profound awakening about the moral principle of remembering the source when drinking water. It is choking to realize that a beautiful soul, someone who wove so many wonderful stories, almost became a nameless ghost within the very stream of literary history she helped to glorify. The unintentional forgetfulness of society is sometimes even more damaging than the harshest criticism. Yet this story also shines with a warm hope of empathy and connection across generations. The fact that a writer from a succeeding generation personally sought out the grave of a predecessor is not only a noble gesture, but also a sacred continuation of the cultural vein. Her legacy has proudly risen from the weeds, reminding us to always cherish and protect those who quietly sowed the seeds of knowledge for life. Thomas Sankara. Thomas Sankara emerges in the flow of world history as a brilliant symbol of integrity and national self-respect. As the great president of Burkina Faso, he brought a completely new breath of life to the African continent during the challenging years of the 1980s. For audiences who have experienced many historical upheavals, his image represents a burning desire for independence, a leader who firmly rejected luxurious privileges to live an incredibly simple life close to the impoverished working class. His progressive policies on equal rights, food self-sufficiency, and medical development truly revived an entire nation. He was not just an ordinary politician, but a great thinker who sowed the seeds of confidence and the desire to rise up for millions of people thirsting for a brighter tomorrow. However, that great journey of dedication was closed in a deeply mysterious and painful way in 1987. After being harmed by a profound political upheaval, his remains were hastily buried, followed by a terrifying silence that enveloped the entire country for decades. People not only wanted to remove him from leadership, but also wanted to wipe clean his traces and legacy from community memory. Having to wait for nearly 3 grueling decades, it wasn't until 2015 that his remains were officially exhumed by authorities. This event aimed to gather the most important medical evidence, paving the way for a process of seeking the truth and restoring historical justice for a man who sacrificed completely for the noble ideals of his nation. From the analytical perspective of the Our Memory Vault team, the exhumation of Thomas Sankara's remains carries a profoundly deep and thought-provoking humanistic meaning. It is the clearest proof showing that dark forces may temporarily conceal the truth, but they can never bury justice forever. The endless waiting of his family and those who loved him was finally rewarded, turning the land where he rests into a powerful podium, speaking out to demand justice. We believe that no matter how many ups and downs the physical body must endure, the dignity and indomitable spirit of a great man always remain intact in value. His story reminds each of us that integrity sometimes comes at a very high price, but fair history will always record and honor those who dare to live for what is right. Sarah Baartman. The story of Sarah Baartman brings a deep and poignant pause as we look back at the dark patches in the history of human development. Hailing from a peaceful land in South Africa, this gentle woman was brought to Europe by false promises in the early 19th century. Instead of finding a better life, she fell into a harsh tragedy, being turned into an exhibit on display to satisfy the curiosity of gaping crowds. For audiences with profound life experience, this story is an aching wound exposing the ultimate lack of respect for human dignity. Her physical differences were weighed and measured by the narrow-minded prejudices of that era, stripping away all her personal freedom, her right to be respected, and her wish to have an ordinary life like any other woman. But the saddest part did not stop at the moment she took her last breath in 1815. Even after leaving this stormy world, her physical body was still not returned to its rightful peace. Her remains continued to be kept analyzed and displayed in a museum in France for more than a century and a half. It was only when awareness of human rights was elevated, coupled with the tireless, persistent struggle of former President Nelson Mandela and the South African government, that a true miracle appeared. In 2002, the remains of Sarah Baartman were finally returned to her homeland. She was welcomed into the embrace of Mother Earth with solemn ceremonies and overflowing love, ending a long string of days wandering and enduring humiliating injustice. The Our Memory Vault team always feels choked with emotion when contemplating Sarah Baartman's journey back to her homeland. The return of her remains was not merely the completion of a diplomatic process. It was the greatest journey of restoring honor in modern history. It marked the repentance and awakening of a world that had once committed grave mistakes in the past. We believe that when her grave was closed on the very soil of her ancestors, it was also the moment a powerful message was sent to future generations. No one has the right to trample upon the dignity of another. The belated peace of Sarah Baartman will forever be a wakeful candle illuminating the love for our fellow human beings and serving as an affirmation that the self-respect of a human being is inviolable. King Curtis. King Curtis was a masterful saxophone virtuoso, someone who used his deep soaring notes to paint a brilliantly vibrant musical picture during the golden age of R&B and soul. His saxophone was not just an ordinary instrument. It carried the breath of life, sometimes gently melodic like a confession, at other times strong and decisive like a choked sob from deep within the soul. For audiences who once reveled in the melodies of the 60s and 70s, his music is a piece of memory that can never fade. His delicate sensibility helped elevate countless classic songs, turning background melodies into the most profound highlights, etching his name as an irreplaceable monument in the hearts of music lovers and contemporary colleagues alike. At the peak of his form, when his career was blooming with its brightest flowers, a deeply tragic and sudden incident struck in 1971, taking his life right after he turned 37. Although his remains were fully buried and never exhumed or disturbed afterward, his passing left a massive void that nothing could fill. At the ceremony sending him to his final resting place, an atmosphere of silence and infinite mourning enveloped the greatest artists of the era. They stood there quietly reflecting on an outstanding talent that had just been extinguished deeply, understanding the tremendous loss to the global music scene. The peace of the grave where he lies completely contrasts with the unfinished nature of an artistic journey that was still promising so many wonderful things ahead. Through the lens of Our Memory Vault, the sudden passing of King Curtis evokes a profoundly deep philosophy about the fragility of human life. Sometimes, greatness does not lie in how long a person lives, but in what values they leave behind in the short time they exist on this earth. We believe that even though the physical body of the talented artist has blended into the gentle embrace of Mother Earth, the magical saxophone notes he played have never been extinguished. Every time those old recordings are played in a quiet space, his soul seems to return, continuing to converse with and soothe the listener's heart. That is the true immortality of an artist living forever in the love and appreciation of generations who love beauty. Dear friends, we have just walked together through an emotional journey, looking back at the mysteries and untold stories behind the resting places of historical giants. Hopefully, through these moments accompanying Our Memory Vault, you not only gained deep perspectives on these talented individuals, but also found precious lessons about humanity, appreciating life, and the value of peace. We wish you and your loved ones always have a truly relaxing, joyful, and warm time together. If you enjoyed the content we just shared, please do not forget to hit the subscribe button. the like button, and turn on the notification bell to continue supporting us in our next videos. Goodbye, and see you again soon.